A confirmed large, dangerous tornado from the National Weather Service, a tornado emergency now in effect for Greensburg in Kiowa County.
Let's get these trees out of here.
Whoa, lightning.
Of course, there's
Boy, I sure hate to tell you this, friends, but it looks like that thing is right on top of Greensburg. So your time is up. You need to be in your shelter right now.
This is Greensburg, Kansas. It's a small farming town with a population of about 700 and is 110 miles west of Wichita. It was founded in 1886 by Donald R. Green. It's home to the Greensburg Rangers, the largest hand dug well in the world, and the world's largest pallasite meteorite. The town had been hit by a few minor tornadoes in the past, but on the night of May 4th, 2007, a 1.7 mile wide tornado with winds of over 200 miles per hour almost wiped Greensburg off the map. The year of 2007 had been fairly active leading up to the outbreak that the Greensburg tornado was part of, with there being 450 tornadoes recorded in the United States. There was an outbreak from February 28th to March 1st, which is the first ever EF5 since the enhanced Fujita scale's implementation on February 1st earlier that year. Another outbreak on March 28th had 59 tornadoes, making it the largest outbreak of the year so far. However, this record would soon be beaten. On May 4th, there was a slow-moving, low-pressure system with an attached warm front that lingered over the high plains, and moisture coming from the Gulf of Mexico moved in behind the warm front and increased instability across much of the region. Temperatures were in the mid to high 80s, and dew points were in the 50s to 60s. There was also high wind shear, which briefly is variation in wind speed with increasing height in the atmosphere. This allowed for strong rotation and developing storms. An atmospheric sounding in the late evening revealed extreme instability, with CAPE values, which is a measure of how much potential energy there is in the atmosphere for developing thunderstorms, reaching as high as over 5,000 joules per kilogram. On the morning of May 4th, the Storm Prediction Center issued a level 2 out of 3 moderate risk for areas in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, and Nebraska. There is also a 15% risk of tornadoes rated EF2 or higher, covering most of western Kansas, as well as small portions of Colorado and Nebraska. Additionally, there is a 30% risk of winds 74 miles per hour or higher, and a 45% risk of hail 2 inches or larger. At 4:51 p.m. Central Daylight Time, a storm began to develop in the Texas Panhandle. After crossing the border into Oklahoma, the storm became tornado warned, and eventually dropped 2 short-lived tornadoes near Arnett. One of these was captured on video by storm chaser Reed Timmer. The tornado appears to have been a lot stronger than the EF1 rating it was given, but it just didn't impact enough structure to earn a higher rating. While this happened, another storm developed to the northwest. It picked up steam while traveling in a northwesterly trajectory, becoming tornado warned shortly after crossing the Oklahoma-Kansas border. This storm produced 4 weak tornadoes over mostly open land before dropping the most violent tornado of the outbreak. The tornado touched down at around 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time in Comanche County, Kansas. It grew rather quickly, reaching almost 3/4 of a mile wide within only 3 miles of its journey. Also, around this time, 5 satellite tornadoes touched down accompanying the parent tornado. 2 of these were captured on video on the ground at the same time by Joel Janung and Steve Bluford. The tornado continued to travel northeast while still increasing in size and intensity. It reached its peak width of 1.7 miles wide at roughly 9:30 p.m. as it crossed Highway 138.
A tornado emergency for Greensburg, at 9:37 p.m. Central Daylight Time. National Weather Service meteorologists and storm spotters were tracking a large and extremely dangerous tornado. This tornado was located 5 miles south of Greensburg, moving north at 20 miles per hour. A violent tornado was on a direct path for portions of Greensburg, especially the eastern portions of town. Take immediate tornado precautions. This is an emergency situation for Greensburg.
At 9:37 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a tornado emergency for Greensburg, mentioning how the tornado would mainly hit eastern portions of town. During this time, however, the tornado began to occlude, turning in a more northern trajectory, putting it on a direct course for downtown Greensburg. The town was only about 1.25 miles wide, and unfortunately, so was the tornado at the time of impact. The tornado hit sometime around 9:45 p.m. as it entered the southern portions of town. Many people were able to take shelter. However, some were not as lucky. Claude Hopkins, my great-grandfather, was a lifelong resident of Greensburg. He was directly descended from Caleb Cassius Hopkins, one of the founders of Kiowa County, the county Greensburg is in. He was a smart, kind, and generous man, but as the tornado blew through town, his life was unfortunately lost. A member of my family affected by the tornado who fortunately survived is Marge Schmidt, who I have here for an interview. Did you know the weather was going to be bad on the day of the tornado?
No, not really. I didn't. I was working in Buckland, which is 20 miles away. I was in school, teaching school, and we'd taken the kindergarten and first graders to Dodge City to the zoo. And it was a beautiful day. And then after that, I got home, went to work at Dillon's till 8 o'clock, and then came home, and there was advertising on TV that there was going to tornado weather. And it was getting close to Greensburg, but I thought, nah, I've lived here all my life and there's never been a tornado. So, no,
I did not know on May 4th that the weather was going to be bad. I worked normal day, went home, got my daughter, our youngest daughter, went and got movies, and we went inside to watch movies for the night. My husband and his buddy went out to plant a garden, and that was all we thought was going to happen.
When the tornado was getting close to town, where did you seek shelter?
Well, my daughter called me and told me that it was going to hit Greensburg, and I said, well, if it's going to, I was watching TV. If it was, I would go over to her house, and she had a basement. And she said, okay. Well, 5 minutes later, she called and says, my grandkids said, get there now, because it was going to hit Greensburg now. So I had about 7 blocks to go. And I drove all the way over there. Was not in a hurry, because I really didn't think it was going to hit. I honestly didn't. And she says, okay, we're in the basement. So I got over there, went to the basement, shut the door, and it hit.
My husband was outside planting the garden, and he came in and he says, I think we're going to get a big storm. And I said, well, we better move my vehicle inside. And so we kind of got up and was moving around and getting things situated. Well, and then it was raining, and it was hailing, big hail, like this big of hail. And he went outside, stood on the porch, and he gathered some hail balls. And he brought them in. He's like, this might be the big one, thinking it's just going to be a big storm. And so our daughter, she wanted the hail balls. He's like, no, you ain't having those. We'll put them in the freezer. You can have them later. So he put them in the freezer, thinking, she could take them to school or whatever on Monday, thinking. And then we heard the sirens, and I said, well, it's about time we better go somewhere. He's getting the lanterns, he's getting the stuff all ready for taking shelter, because we didn't know if we were going to lose power or what. And we didn't have a basement. And so he was gathering all the lantern and shuffling around the house, and kept looking outside, and I said, well, we better go get in the shower, because they say, we had the weather on, and he said, we better get safe. And so we went to our shower, stand-up shower, and then it started happening.
What was it like when the tornado was going over and going through town?
You could hear, you heard the roar, but then you heard everything hitting the house, because it was a 2-story house with a basement. And then you could hear windows breaking. In fact, in the basement, we was in the northeast corner, and all the windows in the rest of the house was blown out, but the ones where we was at wasn't. So we were pretty lucky.
When I got back to the shower, I stuffed a body pillow around them, and him and my daughter, and our 2 dogs was in there. and then some belongings that we kind of grabbed. Oh, we gotta take this, or we gotta have this, and so I stuffed him around a blanket, comforter, and then I got back in there, and then as I was going back in there, our bedroom was just off to the bathroom, outside of the bathroom, and our wall tile was in the bathroom was the 4-inch tiles, and those started popping off, and the noise, the wind was just crazy, and our bedroom window wall blew in, and I covered up my head with the comforter and then dropped down, and that's all I remember until after the tornado kind of came through. When I woke up, we were outside. Our house was blown away, and we were outside. We have a little draw that runs behind our house when it rains and stuff, and water kind of brought me to, because it was raining and so cold, and my back, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning, I'm gonna drown. Well, I didn't know I was buried. I kind of came to, and the bathroom floor pattern of the tile was like even with my neck, and all this was on top of me. That was the only thing that was out. And so I came to by the water, and our daughter was standing there, and I was like, sis, we gotta get up and get out of here. I think a freaking tornado just came. And so she was 11, and so she's like, Mom, I can't get you up, and I was like, well, you gotta go get help, something. And we didn't have a flashlight with us. Well, there was a flashlight turned on right there, right by us. So she ran somewhere, and I blacked back out. And just so happened that our next door neighbor, the daughter-in-law, was from Coldwater, and she worked for the ambulance service, and so they were coming up waiting to get into town. They had followed the tornado up, and they were waiting on the outside of town to be cleared to come in. And so of course when they got into town, they went to her in-laws to check on them. And so we really did get care quick, for the most part. They came, and my daughter had told them that me and my husband were over here somewhere, and they found us, and they found me, and they kept trying to move all the debris and stuff off of me, and they were looking for my husband, and they couldn't find him. Well, this one guy kept slipping, and come to find out it was on him. He was buried, and they kept slipping off of him.
Oh my God.
And they told him, they saw him, and they went scurrying to get him uncovered, and they said, if you are alive, you better move something so we can know. And at the lightning, he moved his little pinky, and the lightning struck just at that time, and they were able to see. And they went scurrying to get him out and whatever, and
After the tornado had gone through, how bad did you think the damage was going to be?
Well, once it had hit, I figured it was going to be really bad, but I had no idea what it was going to be.
Okay.
Not at all.
And after you came out of the shelter, what was your reaction to the damage?
Well, it was 9:30 at night, or 9 o'clock at night. You couldn't see nothing, no street lights on, nothing. But we used our cell phones for a flashlight. I mean, that's on the light we had. So you couldn't see anything. You don't know what had happened. You knew it hit, but you didn't know what damage was, because there was no light anywhere.
What about the next day, when there was light?
The next day, you couldn't believe it, because mostly everything was just, well, damaged. Everything was gone. I mean, it was all there, but yeah, everything, all the buildings, everything was damaged. My daughter's 2-story house, the whole top floor was gone. But the rest of the house was there, all the windows were blown out and everything, but yeah.
What about, like, how often do you get tornado warnings? Like, I mean, you said that you didn't think it would really hit. I imagine you guys probably get them.
I think that probably, and all the time I was here, and that was in '07, I would have been 60-some years old, or 70. But anyway, yeah, I can only remember the tornado whistle going off 2 times in my life. I mean, they'd say there was tornado tornado watches, but warning 2 times in my entire life.
Greensburg, the year later, 2008, it actually got kind of lucky because there was a storm that went directly over Greensburg, and one of the largest tornadoes in U.S. history happened just to the southwest, and it lifted and it went over Greensburg without any tornadoes, and right after it went through, it dropped another strong tornado. They were both EF3, so pretty strong. Would have been bad.
And they claimed 90% of the town was gone. Well, that's not right. I mean, I've lived all my life, and the east side of town, there was a lot of east side of town was left.
Yeah.
West side, middle, center, and west was totally, everything had to be rebuilt. Everything.
Yeah. There's like at least 3 slabs, foundations that are still left.
Right.
I think there's 2 in the south part of town.
Yeah.
One of them is apparently the only remaining foundation that had EF5 damage.
I have one more question that I'm just curious about. So, like, beforehand, did it feel different? Does the air feel...
To me, it didn't, and the one lady said, oh, the sky was yellow and green. Well, I'd been out all day, and no, I had not. I mean, honestly, it was just it was a hot day, you know? And it was just well, they said the front was coming through. That's always when a tornado comes. When it's 100 degrees here, 110, if that cold front comes through, you're gonna have tornadoes somewhere. I mean, you're gonna have some kind of damage. But that day, like I said, we was up at Dodge at the zoo all day, and not a thing was different. When I come home, I still didn't think, that's why I really didn't think it was gonna have one, because nothing was different than what it ever was.
The tornado continued past Greensburg for another 8.5 miles, weakening as it moved over mostly open field. As this tornado dissipated, another, much larger tornado touched down to the east, impacting the Trousdale area at EF3 strength. It reached a peak width of 2.2 miles, making it the 2nd largest tornado in U.S. history at the time, and 4th largest as of 2023. Some people believe this tornado might have been stronger than the rating it was given, possibly being as strong, if not stronger, than the Greensburg tornado that preceded it. Following this tornado, 2 more EF3s would touch down, impacting the Hopewell and Macksville areas. It is also believed that these tornadoes were stronger than the rating suggests. The morning light of May 5th revealed the devastation in Greensburg left by the tornado. Just about every structure in town was severely damaged. The water tower was knocked over, flooding surrounding streets in around 3 feet of water. Many people came to town to search through debris and help with the cleanup, including my parents. Although the worst of the outbreak was on May 4th, meteorologists were anticipating even more tornadoes on May 5th. A rare high risk was issued for portions of northern Kansas and southern Nebraska. 91 tornadoes would touch down in areas ranging from northern Texas to southern South Dakota, and 2 were rated EF3. A small EF1 would touch down near Greensburg, luckily only causing minor damage. A total of 132 tornadoes would touch down across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota. $268 million in damage would be done, and 14 fatalities were recorded, 11 of which would be caused by the Greensburg tornado. Larry Hoskins, Max McComb, Harold Schmidt, Richard Fry, Evelyn Kelly, Colleen Panzer, Sarah Tackett, Claude Hopkins, David Leon, Ron Rediger, and Beverly Voles would pass away because of the tornado. In the years following the disaster, Greensburg would rebuild, choosing to get 100% of their power via wind farm, making the town one of few cities in the US that are powered completely by renewable energy. The schools were rebuilt, the big well was given a complete redesign, now including the history of Greensburg and the tornado, and many houses were reconstructed. There are still some remnants from May 4th, like these driveways with no houses, or the lack of tree growth from the areas hit by the tornado. Something else about Greensburg that I don't think is talked about enough is that the population is declining quite a bit. Since the tornado, the number of residents in Greensburg has declined by almost 50%, but people were already leaving well before this. The current population is only about 40% of what it used to be in 1990, which was just under 1,800. Some people are optimistic about the future of Greensburg. I myself hope that one day the population will bounce back at least a little from the tornado. If you're ever traveling through Kansas on Highway 54, consider stopping by Greensburg. You can visit the museum to learn about the city's history, descend into the big well and see the world's largest pallasite meteorite, and when you're done, stop by the soda fountain for a sweet treat. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please consider subscribing so you can learn more about weather phenomena on my channel.